Welcome to the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Paul Delivery, your host. My guest today is Curt Moore, the owner of Moat Title Security Company. Welcome to the show, Curt.
Thank you for having me, Paul. I look forward to the cast for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation. But before we get going, I got to say, I noticed on your bio, you're in the oil and gas business, and one of your titles was Landman. So I got to ask you, I mean, with the popularity of that show, I'm sure your career in that industry wasn't as exciting as those guys, but is that similar to what you did? If you're a landman, was that Billy Bob Thornton? Did you do what he did? Have all the pretty girls throwing themselves at you like that?
That's not the first time I've got that question, and I haven't watched that show a lot. I've watched a few episodes. That is not, in my opinion, a typical day in the life of a landman. Most of the work I did as a landman was pretty uneventful. There's a lot of negotiating, surface owners and mineral owners, and they could be out, on the land, or they could be in a big tall building, or anywhere in between. And the other half of that is researching public records in a clerk and recorder's office, oftentimes in a tiny little town in a rural area of some state. And what he seems to be doing, or what that show seems to be doing, that's a much more tilted towards operations and things that are happening at the well. That's not.
Well, yeah, and they got. Yeah, I mean, obviously they got to dramatize it for entertainment purposes, but they got the drug cartels in there. I mean, there's so many variables, right? All the pretty women that are around. Like I said, I kind of figured that was not the norm, but it was made for TV.
Yeah,
right?
I think I was telling my wife, if they made a TV show, a series about what landmen actually do, I don't think it would ever have got off the ground. It probably would have been canceled after one episode. It's not very fun. It's not very fun.
Pretty mundane stuff, right? It's nothing. Just like you said, doing research, doing contract, mineral rights, things of that stuff.
That's right.
Ho-hum type stuff. Yeah. So. Well, I wanted to touch on that because when I saw the Landman, I chuckled because I actually like the show. I mean, some people don't like it, but I happen to think it's hilarious. To me, it's comedy.
Yeah, I agree. And people will say, "Hey, you're a landman. I didn't know that's what you did." And I'm like, "Well, that's not what I did. We didn't have. I was a land manager for a big stretch of my life. I said the last thing I would do is put my landmen out near a wellhead and have them, tinkering around with high pressure, high flammability." Risk. I mean, that's just not what they're trained to do. But you're right. It's made for TV. And it seems to be pretty popular. So,
yeah, it's entertainment. Yeah, that's that Sheridan guy is like he's got so many hit shows right now. It's frightening between Yellowstone and Tulsa King up in your neck of the woods, up in Oklahoma with Stallone. But at any rate. I just wanted to ask you because we talked before the show. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to mention that to you, but I thought I kind of chuckled when I saw that title. But kudos to you. You should see what you should do. You should just make up some stories.
Yeah, you sure could. I mean, I could go on and on about some of the things I experienced in 30 years of being a landman, but the average day in the life not very glamorous. Pretty boring.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right, we'll shift directions here, Curt. So, you founded this title security company. Now, I know this is not like you show up to a closing and you pay for title insurance and we're done, right?
Yeah.
This is very different. That's why I kind of wanted to have you on the show because I thought what you're doing is a little bit different, very different than just standard title insurance. So, and I know kind of the impetus was, something happened to your mother's house and you got involved and this kind of gets you going. So explain how you get into this business and what you're doing differently than the standard people.
Okay, very good. That's a fair question. Well, Moat Title Security is something that came about because of experience my elderly mother had all the way back in 2014. So that's over 10 years ago. And to answer your question, is Moat title security similar or dissimilar to what you get when you close on property with title insurance, a title policy? It is not that at all. Just in a quick nutshell, when you purchase property, there's a buyer and a seller, and the closing party, a title company generally, will run the title on that property to make sure that there's no unreleased liens or unreleased mortgages or whatever encumbrances are going to linger and carry from the seller to the buyer are all scheduled, so it's as clean a title and clear as picture as possible for the party that's purchasing the property, that there's no hidden problems. Yeah. And they will write a policy on that up until the day of closing. And so they're insuring anything from the date of closing back. So if you walk out of that closing and you thought for example, you thought you were acquiring the minerals, but maybe they missed an assignment and the minerals were already assigned before you bought that property, that would have probably dramatically affected what you were willing to pay for the property. So if they missed that and they represented that you were getting the property and it included the minerals, but in fact you weren't, that would be something that's insured because that happened before you bought the property and they just missed it.
Correct.
What Moat is doing, Moat is built a package of documents to protect property owners from title fraud. So that's people that are recording fraudulent documents with the intent of doing bad things with it. And that's what tried to happen to my mom, again, over 10 years ago. Our view is let's record what we call a notice of title freeze in the public records. That simply says, look, I'm Curt Moore and my wife, Kara, and we own this property in Oklahoma, and we're worried about title fraud. We're worried about someone recording something against our will that's fraudulent and harming us by doing that. So we're just going to freeze our title in the public records. And we're putting that out there for all the public to see, that there shall be no recordings from that effective date of that recording of that document forward in the absence of us first releasing that title freeze. We build it similar, Paul, to a credit freeze. If you're familiar with freezing your credit, it's like, look, I've got a credit card or I've got 2 cards, I've got my mortgage, I do or don't have a car loan, whatever my dynamics are for credit. If I freeze my credit, it just means there won't be any more processing of a credit application. So,
yeah. And so if you're not in the market for buying a new home or getting a loan, getting a car loan, it's not going to matter.
That's exactly right. And I do it. I would suggest everyone that's concerned about having their consumer credit attacked should definitely look into freezing your credit. You do it at 3 different agencies. If you could freeze your title at 3 agencies, I'd be all for it. But the problem is public records are kept in thousands of county offices across the United States. So there's no central point where you go to do that. So we built our notice of title freeze to be recordable in the public records that, again, just says, hey, look, my title's frozen. If anything gets recorded without my express recorded consent in the form of a release of title freeze, and there's instructions in our title freeze document of how that can happen, if anything gets recorded, it's fraudulent because I will only consent to voluntary recordings that I actually am aware of and have done myself. So we believe it's a proactive deterrence, number one. If you think of someone considering an attack and they bump into that notice of title freeze, I think reasonable minds would expect they'll probably just move to the next property and leave that one alone. So that's a win. If they miss it or don't understand it or don't care and they file a fraudulent document anyway, our notice of title freeze will be valuable evidence to take to the authorities and the courts if necessary to say, look, I recorded this notice of title freeze. It specifically says nothing will be recorded without my consent. This got recorded. I believe it's fraudulent. I'm claiming that it's fraudulent. I didn't do it. Somebody else did it. It should be expunged and removed from the records. And if you have a notice of title freeze or not, if someone attacks you, records a document, you're going to have to go clear it up. And it's generally going to have to be the clear up document is a judgment. You're going to have to go in front of a judge and say, hey, look, Your Honor, this is bad. This happened. It's wrong. It's fraudulent. They're going to have to weigh the evidence and conclude that you are right. That could take months, and it costs possibly tens of thousands of dollars. So first off, deterrence. Second off is helpful evidence to make for a much easier path to resolve the problem.
So, Curt, let me back up a little bit. Talk to me about what title fraud is. What are the mechanics of? I'm Joe Blow, and I live in Collin County, Texas. They go up to the Collin County office, they look up my record, and how is title fraud perpetuated? How does it
Great
work?
Question. Well, title fraud is a type of scam that it's gaining traction. And what you just said, go up to Collin County. It used to be that's how you did it. It used to be you'd go to the county courthouse, the clerk recorder, and you'd use their tools, microfiche and computers to research records. Now you can do that online. Everything's online. I don't believe there's a county in the United States that you can't go online and research the public records. So I could be in a foreign country researching your records in Collin County.
Sure.
But the name of the game and the goal there is to pick a property. Generally, it's a property that is high value. Generally, it's a property that has little or no mortgage against it. And oftentimes they'll also look for the dynamic of the property owner's elderly. That was certainly the case in my mother's experience. So their targets, their high targets are elderly, high value property, little or no mortgage. So they can snoop around in the public records. They can find that. You can use social media to snoop out some of that, but you definitely get what you need to know in the public records in the clerk and recorder's office. And then what the goal is, what their scheme is to prepare a deed. And they're going to prepare a deed from the current legitimate owner and conveying the interest in their property to either themselves, or they'll steal somebody else's identity and put it in the identity of some other identity. And that in and of itself doesn't make them money. That just gets presented to the clerk and recorder. They record that. And they will use that deed to either seek out and obtain mortgages against the property as the new owner, or we certainly have examples on our website. They'll simply say, hey, look, I've got this property. I was going to move into it. I'm excited. But guess what? I got transferred out of the country, so I need to sell it quickly. And they'll just look to resell the property quickly. And you see these from time to time, and you hear about them. These cases where a home will go up for sale on Zillow or some of the different real estate services, and it's always highest and best bid by Friday at noon. You can pick the title company, and you can inspect it before closing, and anything you find wrong, we can have a mechanism to deduct from the purchase price. But as the seller, I really want to make sure that, anyone that's bidding on this property is qualified and they're really intent on closing. So I'm just going to ask for 3% earnest money as part of your bid, and the check needs to be payable to some LLC or some company that they've created. So if you think about that, on $1 million home. Say the attack was against you and your wife, and the house had a market value of $1 million. Just use easy math, and say you said, if I could just get $950 for this, that's what I'm hoping to get. But let's put it out at auction, see what happens. Say you get 10 people to bid around $950,000, and they all write a check for 3% of that. You're talking 10 different people wrote a check for $25,000. And that's it. That's their scam. They're going to have $250,000. They have no intent whatsoever of closing or doing any of those things they talked about. They're going to be gone. Yep. You've got.
It's all about getting, in that situation, it's just about getting the earnest money.
Yeah. I mean, the harm parties are you and your wife. You've got a terrible problem to fix because you've got all this cloud in your title now. You've probably got 10 different people trying to sue you whoever's identity was stolen and used as the fraudulent grantee, they're probably going to get sued. They have no idea what happened and what's going on, but they're going to get entangled in it. It causes all kinds of chaos for a bunch of innocent parties. Meanwhile, the bad guy just goes to the next property, and it's becoming a quite a problem. Whether they're seeking mortgages or seeking to quick sell the property, our view is people should be aware that it is a problem first off, and consider if they want to do something about it. And if they look at the alternatives, we believe our title freeze is effective and proactive way of preventing that from happening.
So if you put a title freeze on the house, what's to stop them from going up and trying to represent themselves as you?
That's a great question.
Title freeze the house, if that's a term, to try to sell themselves off as they wouldn't have IDs, they wouldn't have other things to prove who they are.
Well, it's a great question, and the fact of the matter is, when you record something, it needs to be notarized. So our documents are notarized. Whether you're freezing your property or you're electing to release that freeze, you're going to go through a process either with our agents or online. We use DocuSign to confirm the identity of the property owner. So we'll set up you and your wife's property to be frozen. You're going to have to confirm your identity. There's a process you go through to confirm that you are who you say you are. And we don't even get into the room until your identity is confirmed. And that works the same way when you're releasing your title freeze. So if they're going to pretend to be you, they're going to have to get through that hoop. If they just want to prepare their own release of title freeze and record that, at that point, Paul, I just think they're going to pick an easier, softer target to pick. Sure. It's just, if I'm a bad guy, I'm looking for low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit,
I'm looking for the least path of resistance. I'm looking for an elderly owner that is, not paying attention maybe as much as they used to, vulnerable parties. What I don't want to do is get myself into a tricky situation where I've got extra things to do to try to make this attack work. So,
I think you're right. I think the bad guys are going to, if they come across a property that has a secured title, a freeze on the title, they're probably going to go, something, this is going to be too much work. There's plenty other fish out there to do this, right?
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I mean, are there other people doing this, by the way, or?
I'm not aware.
I don't think there is, no?
I believe we're a leader, certainly a leader. I believe we're at currently, and it's hard to say if what tomorrow brings. Certainly people could, create similar products. We've got copyrights, trademarks, and all of those things. But right now, I believe we're the only company that's out there with a marketable product that can be recorded in the public records to freeze property title.
Yeah, and this would not matter if it's your own personal home or it's a rental property, correct?
That's right. You just have to be the owner of the property. And, if you think about people that may have a home in Denver and a cabin in Breckenridge, there's risk having two different properties. You're either in one or you're in the other one. And if your eyes aren't on where you're living, it does create more of an opportunity for an attack. So second homes are certainly very vulnerable. People that are interested, our website has a news section. We try to keep that populated with examples of title fraud, and sure. Second homes are certainly an attack that is being made. Vacant land. There's an article on there I think it was in Connecticut, where a couple, they both worked in New York, and their goal was to build their dream home on a beautiful lot in Connecticut, and a few years before it was time to retire, they went and checked on their lot, and there's a house on it. It had been someone had fraudulently recorded a deed of their vacant lot and sold that, and then somebody else bought it and they built a house on it. And so now what do you do there? you've got a big quiet title action suit to do there, and I'm not sure how that all resolved, but you've got the rightful owner did not convey their property, and in a succession of future conveyances, somebody else built a home on it. And, there's a lot of harm parties there.
No winners there, but I would think that the original landowner is going to win that one. And the person who built the house is probably going to get screwed.
Yeah, I don't know what the final resolution is, but if I was the party that had the lot and it was fraudulently conveyed, I'm going to find somebody, whoever closed that property, the title company. I'm going to find somebody to shake down and say, "How did that happen? You harmed me."
Yep.
And you're, I don't know what your familiarity is with legal action, but when it comes time to take legal action, you name everybody, and you're going to name the current owner, you're going to name the real estate agent, you're going to name the title company, you're going to name anybody that you need to name, because you're going to have to find the throat to choke, so to speak, of who is going to make it right for you. So, what a mess! What a mess! But again,
that's a mess.
Yeah,
that's a mess.
That would certainly be something that, the notice of title freeze, protecting that vacant lot in the public records. We believe that's a strong defense, and we believe for the cost of freezing your title in the public records versus the risk of having something like that happen, we believe we have a valuable product to offer.
Nice. Well, so I think I understand that. Now we in our pre-call we talked about squatters and things of that sort. How do we protect? If you have a property, like you said, a good example is you got a lake house in Lake Texoma, right? In either in Texas or the Oklahoma side, and you're not there very often. You got these squatters that move in. How do you protect against that? That's a big one.
Well, Paul, that's a great question. And the whole phenomena in the last few years of squatters. So what's a squatter? A squatter is someone that's going to take possession rightfully, unauthorized, illegally of someone's property, generally a dwelling, but it could be land. And they're just going to make a claim that they have a right to be there. And that seems like it's gotten more and more traction, probably in the last 5 years since I've been watching it anyway. But the notion of someone taking possession, in your example, of a second home and just claiming, well, yeah, Paul said I could be here. We don't have a formal lease. He just said it would, if I would do some handiwork, that I could live here for the summer, and then when he wants to come back here, he'll give me notice, and then I'll get out, and his cabin will be remodeled, and everything will be fine. But right now, that's why I'm here. That is becoming, remarkably, in our society, that's becoming a thing where people will target vacant property, vacant houses, second homes, rental properties that are not currently rented, and they'll basically just stake a claim as a rightful tenant. And the game they play there, Paul, is when the owner becomes aware that they've got someone in their property or on their land without their permission, they generally call the police or the sheriff and say, "Hey, look, I own this property, and these people are in there, and I don't know why they're in there. They have no right to be in there. Go get them out." So a sheriff's deputy or a police officer will go out to the property and say, "Hey, look, the owner of this property filed a complaint against you. They say you have no right to be here, and they want me to evict you." You have to understand that sheriff's deputies and police officers, they're all about crime. They are in the business of enforcing the law. Specifically, jurisdictional law around the county or the city that they're employed in. And what these squatters will do, and there's even like TikTok videos of how to be a good squatter and how to defend some of this stuff, which I think is just remarkably wrong. But what they'll say is, no, he's mistaken. I do have a lease here, and they may produce a lease that they made up, or they may.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. Kurt, I've seen that on TV and some programs where they actually produce a lease that it's fraudulent, obviously, but they produce a lease saying, "Hey, I have every right to be in this house."
That's right. And whatever their story is, it doesn't have to be, in my opinion, traumatically compelling to a sheriff's deputy or a police officer in that moment. They just have to have they just have to turn this from, is this obviously crime? Did they trespass? Shall I arrest them? Into, this is a civil dispute. It's a he said, she said. The property owner says they don't belong here. They say they do. It's not really for me as a police officer. I'm all about crime. I can't see really the crime here. There may be a civil dispute. There definitely is a civil dispute, but I'm not here investigating civil disputes. That's something that a judge needs to sort out. So these squatters are getting very good at pivoting quickly to get that level of authority to go away, and they pivot it into a dispute. And while they're doing that, as the property owner, you're going to have to start taking legal action. You're going to have to prove that they are there. They've illegally occupied the property, and they're unauthorized tenant in the property, and that could take months, and that could take tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile,
and now you don't have your.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in the meantime, if it's a rental property that happened to be vacant, now you have no income coming in. Yeah. Right, you get legal fees coming. This could get ugly.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you've got somebody that has illegally trespassed into your property, and they're unauthorized, illegally occupying your property. They're probably not going to be the best tenants that you've got in your property. They're probably destroying it. We've got some examples on our website. They just absolutely destroy this property until the day they're kicked out, and then they just go find somewhere else to squat. So if you are impacted by a squatter, it could be tens of thousands of dollars in property damage and legal costs and emotional distress. I can't even imagine going through that. And then when it's all over, you've just got this property that's it's in disrepair. Our view there is very similar to what we do with the notice of title freeze, which is we've got a document which we call Notice of Occupancy. And what that document says is, hey, look, I own this property, and whether I'm occupying it or not, I have no intention whatsoever of anybody else occupying my property. Full stop. If anybody is ever found to be in that property, they have illegally trespassed, and they have no authorization from the owner whatsoever to be in my property, and I reserve every right to evict them. And that's the nutshell, but it is a couple pages of the owner's statement around, tenancy is not allowed in the absence of my recorded consent. And so you think about a second home. If I had a second home in your example, a lake property, and I didn't plan on renting that out, I would record a notice of occupancy on that, and I'm done. There's nothing else to say. If anybody else shows up in that property and they claim to have a right to be there, how? You just don't have a right to make that claim, because I said there shall be no tenants in this property. So it's a deterrent. If they bump into that, if they see that before they attack, they're probably going to attack a different cabin. If they don't see it, don't care, don't understand it, and they attack anyway, we believe you can take that document, hand it to the local authorities, and say, they're probably going to say they have a right to be here, but take this with you, because I've recorded a notice of occupancy that says they can't be there.
So how do you handle a situation where you do have a tenant in the house? Yeah. Would you have to record a notice of occupancy for that particular family or whatever who is living there every time you get a new tenant? Or
That's
how
a
does
great
that
question,
work?
Because we certainly have clients that intend to have legitimate tenants, and they want to protect their property from not legitimate tenants. So if you record your notice of occupancy on a property that you have as a rental and you have a tenant, you simply record a second document, which is titled Notice of Property Lease. And you just record that, and it just simply says, look, the notice of occupancy has a provision that legitimate tenants can occupy the property if we first identify them by recording a notice of property lease. So legitimate tenants can occupy the property, but they have to be identified in the records through a notice of property lease. If the tenant changes, you just record a new notice of property lease.
Right. So that was my next question. Basically, you've got to do this for every tenant.
Yep. And hopefully you're not churning tenants, more than once every few years or so. And we try to make this not cost prohibitive by any far stretch. So, but you're exactly right. people own property all the time, and they have tenant relationships. We don't want to preclude that. We just want to make it clear that, I own this property. This party is allowed to be in there. They are legitimate. Everybody else on the planet is not. So if they're not in there and somebody else shows up in there, they're a squatter.
Yeah, understood. That makes sense. Well, so I think I understand your fee structure the way it's a one-time fee, like this notice of title free, notice of occupancy, notice of I forget how you termed it, leasing. These are all one-time fees, correct?
That's right.
This is not like a subscription or anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
And I'll just interrupt you. Our view is to not burden people with. Our view is to not burden people with perpetual payments for our services. So if you and your wife thought, I am worried about title fraud, I'm worried enough to do something, generally you could pay a monthly subscription to monitor your title and be told if something is recorded, and if it's bad, you can at least have a heads up and start taking action to try to cure that. Or you could freeze your title. Our view is to not charge a monthly fee or an annual subscription that goes on in perpetuity. We just charge for the notice of title freeze. It's $325. If you want to release your title freeze, it's $195. For the notice of occupancy, it's $295. If you need to record a notice of property lease to identify a legitimate tenant, it's $195. Most of our clients, they'll do that, and they don't need to do anything else for perhaps years. So you don't, in our view, you don't have to keep paying monthly for something that you've already paid and is done. So we've got a different pricing model, and we think that's going to be appealing to the market.
I think so too, because when we first started talking, that was first thing I was thinking, okay, what's this going to cost, like everyone else? But a one-time fee of a few $100, like say, if you live in a house for 5, 10, 15 years and you do it once, I think it's well worth that investment.
Yeah. At that point, I think the biggest risk is you forgot that you froze your title, and then you do want to do a legitimate transaction. We've actually had a couple clients do that. They froze their title, and then they just forgot, I think. And one of them went out to do a HELOC, so a second mortgage on their home, forgot their title was frozen, got it all set up, had a closing called out, and the title company called and said, well, we can't close. You froze your title, and you need to release that freeze before we can close. And they're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. So we quickly rallied with them and gave the title company the release documents to record prior to their closing. But you're right. I think years and years will go by. I think the biggest risk is people forget that they froze their title, and you just if you do need to do a legitimate transaction, such as I'm going to sell my home or I'm going to change my mortgage out, you do need to reach out to us and request a release of title freeze so we don't trip up your closing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, that's great. So overall, I got to believe things are going well for you. I think you get a great product. How are you getting the word out there, by the way?
That's a big challenge. We're an early stage startup, planning to enter 50 states. It's a wild west of marketing in 2025. So we're using a mix of the different media options to get the word out.
Sure.
Podcasts such as yours and others that I'm doing is a good way to build brand and build awareness. Ultimately, we if you flash forward to the future state, whatever that is, a year, 2, 3 years from now, we want to have representatives in all 50 states that are on a more of a local marketing campaign with the company behind them on a national campaign. And it's all about just saying, hey, look, if you're worried about title fraud or you're worried about squatters, here's some products. Here's what they can do for you. Yeah. Here's what they can do that are different than the competition. We've got a different pricing model, a different product model, certainly than the current market has. And we believe we have a different customer service model. So we believe that word of mouth and through referrals are working really well for us. We'll get the word out for what Moat is doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. So Curt, this was great stuff. I think everyone can relate to this. This is not like, well, I take anyone that owns a home, obviously, or owns property could relate to this. And everyone's, I know most people are worried about things like this, but do nothing about it. So this is a very inexpensive, easy way to kind of protect yourself, I think.
I agree. And it's foundational in the structure of our business plan is to make it available for all people. I've had any number of people say, "Oh, you should charge, way more than that for that." If I had to go to an attorney and build that, it would cost me thousands of dollars. It probably would, but we would want to have people of all makeups, all dynamics, to the extent they're concerned about title fraud and/or squatters, to have the ability to protect their property with our documents and not make that a financial barrier.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I think your pricing's great, and I think you'll get more business because of it, right? If you said we're going to charge you $10,000 for this, I think what your answer would be, right? But to spend $300 or $400 to protect yourself, I don't know anyone that wouldn't do it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show this to my wife, and we'll probably give you a call and get our homes all locked up.
There you go. I think it's a wise move. But you're right. I mean, if you're selling soda, you could sell it for 50 cents a can, and you're going to sell that many. If you sell it for 75 cents a can, you're going to sell less. You get to a point where you're pricing yourself out of your own product sales, and we believe, let's make an outstanding product that's different and it's needed, and people. To the extent we can expand the education of people of what the risks are of title fraud and squatters, and show them how our products can protect them from those dynamics. The last thing we want to do is get them to the point where, that's great, but I can't afford it. We want to make it pricing is not a barrier.
Yeah. Well, Curt, if someone wanted to get in touch with you or your company, how would they do that?
We've got a website. It's at moattitlesecurity.com. There's information about our products there. There's a link in the pages to reach out to an agent or to the home office if you have questions about anything. So that's a great way to get a hold of us. And I keep an eye on that. The agents keep an eye on that, and we try to be very responsive to incoming inquiries of all shapes and sizes. Love it.
All right, I think we'll end on that note, Curt. This was very informative, and again, I think this is just so relatable to everybody. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
I think all of us have these concerns. Yeah. But like I said, for you folks out there that want to get in touch with Curt, he's on LinkedIn too. So if you want to, you can probably reach him there too. But I think it's a great product, great solution. And Curt, I wish you the best. I think you're onto something.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Paul, and I appreciate you having me on. It's you got a great podcast, and I really appreciated spending the time today.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And that'll be it for another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. Until next time, this is Paul D'Allegro signing off. Curt, good luck in your endeavors. I'm looking forward to maybe having you on again when you become rich and famous.
I'd love to come back on anytime. You just let me know.